Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Negative Alpha Bravo. And this is 7 November Golf. Roger, request you check your Romeo side. I'll go ahead and check my Tango side. 7 November Golf out. And 8 o'clock, 7 November, say again. 7 November, go. I copied a while ago, 1 Charlie transmission that my and 8 5, this is 7 November, Charlie. 8 5 right now. Now 1 Charlie, 7 November, go.
This is 1 Charlie, welcome to your last, you're granted 158 extra 5 o'clock, 1200 between teams and local. Also request your unit take extra method to see if we can try to get Whiskey 9 and 8 for pause at the playground.
And this is 7 November, Roger, stand by.
Got that.
Got it? Alright. And all units, this is 7 November Golf. My unit Alpha, Echo, X-ray Alpha Alpha in there.
One Charlie, Alpha Bravo.
Hey, I never took a dip. I forgot to take a dip.
Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Whiskey 9, Yankee, 7 November Golf, over. Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Whiskey 9, Yankee, 7 November Golf, over. Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Negative Alpha Bravo. And this is 7 November Golf. Roger, request you check your Romeo side. I'll go ahead and check my Tango side. 7 November Golf out. And 8 o'clock, 7 November, say again. 7 November, go.
Hey, thanks for making it to the live event. We are streaming this on multiple channels, as we always do, to get the word out to as many people as we can. We appreciate every single one of you making it onto the live event here. And the one thing I want to say is there are many different pieces of legislation introduced. There are changes that are happening. And quite frankly, it's not all doom and gloom. There are some really good, solid pieces of legislation that are putting more money into veterans' pockets in the event that they make it all the way through the process. And that's some of the stuff we're going to talk about here today. We brought David Piatek on from VA Housing Education. Thank you so much for making it, David. We really do appreciate you. We're streaming on the CivDiv, Veterans Daily, David's channel, VA Housing Education, and Veterans Infotep. If you are not subscribed to all of those channels, look, it doesn't cost a nickel. It helps to spread the word. If you're watching this, we appreciate all of your support more than you know, and way more than Clay ever talks about. We really appreciate every single one. Actually, Clay does a pretty good job about thanking people. So, but we do. And so with that, I'm just going to open it up with this. I'm going to kick it to you, Clay, and then you can follow up with a question over to David. And for those of you that are watching, if you have any questions on this stuff, please throw it in the chat. Clay is a mastermind at finding the questions in there. He does, the mastermind part anyway, right? So he is the multitasker, I think, of the group, to be honest with you. I mean, I know it's not me. Agreed. That would drive me nuts. So thank you, Clay, for doing that. And again, I appreciate it, everybody. Depending on where you're at, it could be dark where you are, or it could be before dinner, depending on where you're at. So with that, Clay, I'm going to dive in to just the brief topic here on a new piece of legislation that was recently introduced, and I'm going to give the full name just because it's so long. The Sherry the Sherry Briley and Eric Edmondson Veterans Benefits Expansion Act of 2025. Now, I'm not going to give away the information because I want you to talk about it, at least give the overview. I'm going to say this, though. This is something that the veteran community and the veteran sphere has been asking for a very, very, very long time. Some sort of an acknowledgement on readjusting things. So please hang on with us. Clay, go ahead and give the folks a brief overview, if you will, of what this is, and then we'll kick it to David for some practical application.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I also want to give a quick shout out to everyone who joined as a new member. Thank you very much. I have no idea whose channel you're a member of, but if it helps one, it helps all of us. So thank you very much to Nearly, OAP, Cloud Little, Ginger House. That's hilarious. Chris Mackey, what's up? And then we have a big one from Mary and Norm P. I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name. Sorry there, buddy. But thank you very much for that. That's a big donation. We definitely appreciate that. And for the, hold on, I got to get this name right. The Sherry Briley and Eric Edmondson Veterans Benefits Expansion Act of 2025. That's HR 6047. Long story short, is for those who have SMCS, right, who are housebound aid and attendants, are going to receive DIC, dependent indemnity compensation, which gets me every single time. It really does. I have to like hooked on phonics there, you know. You're essentially going to get an extra $10,000 per year, which turns out to be about $833.33. This bill has 11 co-sponsors. That's what it's for. And so what's funny is what that reminds me, Jason, is the Washington Post just brought up the, sleep apnea pays out more than an amputated leg, which is just stupid.
Right. Yeah.
And then you look at the SMC scale, and we're looking at there's bills being introduced to adjust the pay scale for those of us who are most disabled. And so it's good to see this bill seems like right on time. That's the introduction for the bill there. And there are many other bills, but look, we'll cover this one first.
Yeah. So the question to you, David, is in the event, I'm going to preface it with this for everybody out there. And I say this often in my videos, look, there's going to be situations where it doesn't impact every single one of us, right? But it does impact one of our brothers or sisters, and that's a good thing. And as the tide starts to rise and some move up, others will follow. So what's good for one is good for all. Now, when it comes to this specific bill, there's a potential that it's going to impact about 500,000 of our brothers and sisters. That's huge. Now, what sort of, as we look at increases in our monthly compensation, what sort of impacts does that make on the ability to purchase a home, for example? I mean, $833, is it a lot? I know it would help me if I got an $833 raise. But what does that really translate to? I mean, loosely, right? What could somebody expect?
Yeah, definitely. And so one thing, it's $833 that's not taxed. So that's actual take-home pay that you're getting. So equate that to a mortgage, you're probably talking about $120,000 in purchasing power if you're thinking about home ownership. Now combine that with maybe having a tax break, because this applies to surviving spouses as well. So if you're in an area where you can qualify for that exemption, you're buying a property, your surviving spouse, you could take that exemption with you. Now, if you own a home, we know that costs don't stay the same, right? So you can have a situation right now where you don't pay property taxes, your insurance is affordable, but like what happened in Chicago right now, they just did a big reassessment of property taxes. Taxes skyrocketed and assessed values went up, and that pushed people out of getting taxed, being 100% tax exempt now. So that's why it's so important to know those local laws and be on top of those change, kind of like the stuff we're talking about now, because it could be both positive and negative, right? Where this can come into fruition, but your situation where you live may change significantly.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to legislation, I will say this. if we as a constituency, a veteran sphere, right, including spouses and dependent children that are of age, that type of stuff, if we sit quiet, well, then we really don't care that much about it, do we? But if we make a little bit of noise, I'm not saying be crazy. I'm just saying, like, reach out to your congressional member's office and leave them a message after hours. If you don't want to talk to anybody, you don't need to talk to anybody, right? You can call after hours, leave a message. Let them know that, hey, I'm veteran so-and-so, or I'm surviving spouse so-and-so, or I'm spouse so-and-so, or you don't even need to say that. I'm so-and-so constituent, and I support this, and I hope that you're supporting it too. And I'm telling you right now that if you get enough people doing that, that's how we get things done, is at the constituency level. Do not rely on the VFW and the American Legion and the so on and so forth to champion it at the Hill, and that's all it takes, right? There's nobody voting at the Hill. You gotta make noise in your backyard at your constituency level, and that's where this stuff happens. I'm gonna copy and paste the name of this specific bill in the comments on my channel anyway. I'm guessing that it would just be on mine, but the bottom line is that get this information and share it, because quiet mouths don't get fed. The one thing I will say, unlike the sadly, unlike the Major Richard Starr Act, where they didn't really have funds, I guess, allocated for it, they had no way to really offset it. So they say, right? And they is the government. To me, it's, you should figure it out and let's do it. But the rub is there's no specific call for an offset. For this one, it says the Sherry Briley and Eric Edmondson Veterans Benefits Expansion Act is fully offset. And that is directly from the House Committee on Veterans Affairs website. How are they offsetting it? Don't know. But that helps things move along when they're actually quote unquote paid for. Clay, any other, I know we got a bunch. Is there one that you want to talk about next? And we can always kind of loop back into these later.
Oh yeah. Do I want to talk about one? It's called Review Every Veterans Claim Act. If you watch the most recent video on my channel about this, people got really butthurt for many reasons, but the main one, and this one I caught a lot of heat for, but I still believe in what I'm about to say. Essentially, the VA is not going to review every single claim. That's not this. It's the name of the bill. That's not the intention. The intention is when a veteran misses a CMP exam, the VA can't deny the veteran based on that alone. And I got to be honest with you, and I definitely want your input, Jason. Same for you, David. I cannot tell you how many decision letters I have reviewed for denials. And I asked the veteran, hey, why were you denied this disability? And they're yapping about how much the VA sucks. And I'm like, all right, send me the decision letter. This hasn't happened once. I'm talking hundreds of times. Okay. Hundreds. And I read the decision letter. Lo and behold, the veteran did not show up to their CMP exam. And immediately, my respect isn't the right word, but now everything the veteran tells me, I'm taking with a grain of salt, right? And so how many times have veterans not went to CMP exams for whatever reason, and that's why their claim was denied? Now, if it's a legitimate reason, got it, okay? I've even had veterans who have called the CMP examiners, informed the VA, somehow that gets lost in the sauce, and then they're denied for not showing up to their CMP exam. So that I got it. But I think for the most part, veterans missing CMP exams because, dare I say, they're lazy. I think that's going to increase the VA's workload in a manner that's going to harm the big picture, all veterans, because now you got more claims processors scheduling more CMP exams that, oh, by the way, I'm willing to bet money on it that the veteran who missed the first one for no reason is going to miss the second one for no reason. A lot of people disagreed with that, which is totally cool. But I'll read the bill's one-liner on this, and then I want your thoughts on that as well. It says, prohibit VA from denying a claim for veterans benefits solely because a veteran does not report for a medical examination, which is the CMP exam. What are your thoughts, Jason?
So I think the key word is solely, right? So I think what this bill is trying to address is the VA adjudicator going, oh, notification, missed exam, denied, and then just pushing it off their desk, instead of them going, okay, well, let me go in and actually look through the entire file, because you and I know, Clay, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes veterans get it right. And they've supplied everything they need. They got a dialed in DBQ. Now, let me throw this out there. I really try to be careful, Clay, with talking about, the DBQ is good, just period, because garbage in is garbage out. And you can actually print out a DBQ, Disability Benefits Questionnaire, VA form, for your specific condition. It's blank. There's not anything on it, right? I mean, except for the actual questions, but there's no answers. And you could take that to your medical doctor, right? And you could just leave it with them and go, hey, can you fill that out? And leave. And that doctor doesn't understand the legalities of VA claims. This is a legal process, not just a medical process. That doctor is not a legal practitioner, if you will. So they just have their doctor hat on and they answer the questions and they move on. They might not be giving the VA everything they need. Therefore, the VA orders the CMP exam. Okay. But sometimes the veteran is going to get it right. They've either done the research themselves, they brought their doctor up to speed, they let them know exactly what information they need to get in that DBQ, or they utilized an organization like AME, American Medical Experts, board certified doctors. If you need that type of information, they can do it for you and do it right. And so for those that get it right and provide the VA everything they need to, not only, there's two things that are the musts: prove service connection or secondary condition, whatever, right? Prove that. And this is where everybody misses it, Clay, and prove the level of severity as it relates to the rating schedule. And if you prove those two things, now they can rule in your favor if you've provided them all the medical evidence needed to do that. So I think that in some cases, and this is just me speculating, the VA orders the CMP exam because that's the easier route, without even really looking in your file. Up, next level, send them over to CMP, boom, miss the CMP. Oh, okay, miss the CMP, reject, deny, whatever, boom, move on. So this forces the VA to actually, okay, well, they missed the CMP. Let me go through all their stuff anyway and make sure that I'm not just denying because they missed the CMP exam. There might be enough information in there to rule in their favor or not. But to make a actual assessment of the claim and make an appropriate determination to fully adjudicate it. Now, do I think it's going to cause a bunch of issues? Not necessarily. I think that you did bring up a good point, Clay. I'll say it. Good job. You brought it. Yeah, whatever. Here we are. Yay. And just clip that piece out and just put that somewhere every once in a while. So yes, veterans need to do better, right? And actually treat this whole process like a legal, like okay, you show up or it's just over. And don't think that the VA is going to help you through it, and make it easier and coddle you through it. It is a battle, and you need to be prepared for that battle to get through it. To get to the other side where you can kick off your boots, right? So don't take your boots off during the process. Take them off after the process. So I think there is some of that. I don't think that it's going to cause too much problems. I think it's going to stay. You missed the CMP exam, hopefully, and I'm not sure, Clay. I'm going to kick it back to you with this. Let's say somebody misses the CMP exam. The adjudicator, right, the rater, they're going through it, and they determine, well, I'm going to deny you because you don't have everything in there. Are they going to work to reschedule another CMP exam, which then that goes, they're going to miss the next one too, right? What is the process there? Do they just have to review, but they could still deny, or do they review and then they have to actually schedule a second attempt of a CMP? Do you know the answer to that?
We'll have to see how the VBA interprets the
That's what
law,
I hate.
assuming this passes, because
Right.
not every time. I mean, look, the Board of Veterans Appeals wouldn't exist if the VA interpreted the law correctly.
Correct.
So it's hard to say. But I do know this. How many times, and I'm sure you've even got these questions yourself, how many times do veterans reach 100%? They have some deferred claims that haven't been processed yet. And so they have 100%. They got a claim in for knees, back, whatever. But at that point, it doesn't matter anymore because they're already 100%. I know they're not going to attend their CMP exams. I know it. And so those are going, that costs money, by the way, to schedule the exam. It costs money to do that. So the examiner is going to get paid. The company's going to get paid. The VSR is going to do the work to schedule it. You're not going to show up, and then all of it's going to happen again. And one is I'm looking at the CBO's projection here because it's anything involved with a budget. Obviously, they have a say in it. And one of their estimated budgetary effects is increasing VA's workload, essentially doing twice the work for people who are never going to show up to CMP exams. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, man, because the veterans. How do I say this? I'm sorry. You know, I'm trying to say it in a nice way, and I've said this a few times before. Jason and I were in the infantry. Okay, both 0341s.
I as well.
Apart,
that's okay.
Right? You were in the infantry.
Yeah, that was my original MOS.
I didn't know that. Okay, I totally respect you.
We just
more
become
now,
best friends.
Yeah. It took that.
Yeah. No. Okay. So I did not know that, David. Awesome. Let me tell you something about the infantry. Okay, there are some really good dudes there, and that's about 1% of everyone. Everyone else, straight scum of the earth, and I'm not exaggerating at all. Some of the best / worst people you're ever going to meet in your life. Especially in 18, 21 years old. I'm just imagining those people as veterans now. And I just know that veterans are lazy. And the reason why I know that is because I'm looking at decision letters almost every day where veterans are denied, they yap a lot, and then turns out they missed their CMP exam. And I'm just like, okay, what is happening here? I say all that to say I think veterans need to take more responsibility on the front end submission of their claim, as well as if you put in for a claim, you tend to CMP exam. That's it. That's all there is.
And I agree 1000%. If you get, and there's been information out there that's like, if you think you submitted everything, you don't necessarily have to, whatever. If the VA says go to the CMP and just be prepared for that. In fact, you need to be ultra prepared. And again, it goes back to the analogy of you don't take off your boots during the process, right? You take them off after the end, unless you're changing your socks. That's a different story. So, but here's my interpretation of it with regard. There's other things in this bill, but this is kind of the big meaty part of it. Is this the prohibition of denying the claim solely based on the missed medical examination? It does say here in kind of the next sentence. This is intended to prevent denials due to administrative errors. Okay. So if they've already provided everything you needed, right? Maybe scheduling issues or unavoidable conflicts. So the veteran that can't make it for whatever reason, which those last two, scheduling issues and unavoidable conflicts, those two lead me to, well, now you got to just reschedule that appointment, right? There are legitimate reasons why people, I got a flat tire on the way, my ride fell through, I didn't have gas money, I was trying to scrounge up, quarters. I mean, not everybody has a very easy way to get to these things. Some people, have it's a very difficult process to go through. So I'm for it. There is some other provisions that try to streamline the BVA, the Board of Veterans Appeals process with regard to that, and then also expanding some of the jurisdiction for the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. On that note, Clay, I know you talked about this some, and I forgot what the ruling was, Witkowski or something like that.
Yes.
was overturned. Yeah, for TDIU, right? Oh, that's a big one. I'd love to have you, if you don't have anything else to say on this, I'd love to hear a little bit about that specific thing. And David, sorry, skipped over you.
That's okay.
While he's talking, think about something on the VA home loan side of the house that is kind of either upcoming or fairly new that we want to talk
Gotcha.
about.
Well, I was going to say actually a different perspective to what you guys are talking about, because
Yeah.
I have a lot of people that don't want to go through the disability process because of the scheduling. Because sometimes it's really short notice. Their jobs won't allow them to be able to do the exam. And tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're going through the VA disability process, and let's say your appointment smack in the middle of the day, can your employer legally have to give you that time off, or is it based on like your responsibility? Because that's a big holdup for folks.
That is, but you would think that the Disabilities Act would kind of cover that, kind of like USERRA covers those in the Guard and reserves. You would think that the American Disabilities Act would allow for that, since you're going for a quote unquote disability. I would think that they would allow for that. I mean, it's a medical exam like anything else too. So I mean, there's also that aspect, and you shouldn't have to divulge very much because of all your HIPAA laws. So I think you're pretty protected. Even if you just said I have a doctor's appointment, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is a good point though, because I mean, I've even had CMP exams where the notice is Friday and the exam is on Monday.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I guess, luckily my boss is understanding, also a veteran going through the process himself. And so I was like, hey, I got a CMP exam. And so instead of saying no, he's asking me like, what's a CMP exam? Because he's going to go through one himself, right? But everyone doesn't have that. Imagine if you work like a very demanding, like a line construction job, right? Where like your presence, if you don't show, it stops the whole line. So I can definitely see where the bill would support veterans. I can also see where veterans will take advantage of that, unfortunately. Okay, so here's the Witkowski decision. It actually overturns a previous decision. I think it was Bowling versus Principe, which is and that's not how you pronounce his last name, but the previous VA admin 3 or 4 ago. But there's 4 points as to why this matters for veterans. All right, I'm just going to read them straight from, this is off of CCK. So reason number 1 is faster decisions and elimination of mandatory referral delays. Veterans seeking extra scheduler IU will no longer face a procedural loop, meaning that when you're looking at TDIU, it can go, if you're looking at the Board of Veteran Appeals and IU, that whole process can be 4, 5, 6 years. Not even at the BVA. It's because of everything else that takes place before that. And so this decision is basically like, hey, screw that. We're going straight to what matters. Long story short, right? Greater consistency in IU outcomes. That's a big one there. Stronger access to judicial review. The thing about IU is I wish there was a rater to ask this live, but there's a lot of VA raters have a certain level of authority when it comes to rating claims. Okay, they're supposed to take out, they're supposed to be non-bias. There's the M21 TAC 5, I think, reference that goes into that. But essentially, there's a lot of subjectivity when it comes to IU. And an example is age is not a factor. Okay. However, it seems like the younger the veteran is, the less likely they are to rate IU, although their disabilities definitely are keeping them from working, right? And you won't find age as a factor as to why they were denied, but there's definitely some subjectivity into why that is. And so I could totally see someone taking IU straight to the board. And then lastly, system level impact beyond a single case. This helps this is the most vulnerable. Okay. When you talk about IU, they're not going to be working much. All right. And let's just say, even if they reach the cap, which is like 15.4, I think, let's just call it 15 grand. What, they're going to get 100% PNT. Let's just call that 50,000 plus 15 grand. That's 65,000 a year. You know, you're not having a good retirement. Let's just be real here, right? You're squeaking by, and it's the least we could do, the country can do, for what I would argue the most vulnerable of the veteran population. It's those on IU and those on pension. Pension's even worse. But yeah, it is a big win. Okay. And although I'm not the biggest fan of attorneys, there are predatory firms out there, make no mistake. It is good to see a law firm like take cases to the big leagues, so to speak, and make actual change. And that's what we saw CCK do here pretty recently. So it's a big win. Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
And real quick, the big thought here is, and it goes back to what you said earlier, which is interpretation, right? So things get passed, then the VA interprets it, and then they apply that interpretation. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened, right? And then in this one, what made the change happen was the language in this specific ruling pointed out that the VA, were referring to the decision board, which is an internal board within the VA, and they were interlinking the board from veterans, the Board of Veterans Appeals, interchangeable with that, and really they're two separate entities. And really, the rating board internally had to have this kind of a look where the Board of Veterans Appeals could make their own decisions. But the VA was forcing the board to get this second set of eyes on TDIU claims, which then made it be a longer process. So it really is shortening up the time frame. But I do want to throw this out there real quick. It's about getting it right the first time so you don't have to deal with the board, mm-hmm. right? And this goes with any claim that you do. So any claim that you ever do, or any loan that you ever apply for, don't go out and start trying to get, committed to something without getting all of your ducks in a row first. Get all of your information done right at the first, before you start leaning in, right? So you can ensure that you can get it right the first time and not even have to deal with the board or anything like that. David, when it comes to VA home loans, is there anything on the horizon or anything new that's changed? I mean, I know rates are moving all over the place. I know that's one thing that's kind of the constant. There's always movement there. But is there anything else that you wanted to? There's always something. Anything that's kind of on top of your mind?
Yeah, right now they're really trying to figure out how to make housing affordable for folks. So one of the proposals, which is basically being able to take your current mortgage and interest rate and move it to another property. So if you guys don't know, with your VA home loan benefits, right? All VA home loans are assumable. So let's say Clay has a 2% mortgage on $500,000 balance, right? And he wants to sell his house for $600,000. I can come in and say, Clay, I'll give you 100, but I want that 500,000 2% mortgage. I can actually put my VA loan benefits onto his property, and then he in turn could free up his VA benefits and buy another property. That's great for buyers, but not great for sellers. So the proposal would be is that Clay would be able to take his $500,000 mortgage at 2% and take it to another house. So they're basically wanting to free people up from being locked in to not selling their home, because a lot of people are looking at their mortgage rates and going like, well, I can't afford to move. I can't even downsize because my mortgage payment's going to be higher than what I have now, right? So that's kind of like the idea behind this for them to be able to transport that mortgage, which is something people have been asking for a while now. So it's still the idea phase. It's complicated because you have different servicers, you have all these mortgage-backed securities. How everything is tied together is extremely complicated. So we'll see how it turns out.
I got some home loan stuff I want to ask David. I already have my answers on that one. What are your thoughts on this 50-year mortgage idea? And I want to make this clear to everyone. The thing that David just talked about, hasn't been introduced. It's just an idea floating around. Same thing with President Trump talking about 50-year mortgages. Yep. Now, I'm going to give my 2 cents first, okay? Because I'm really big on not having debt. First of all, I don't understand any of this, but what I do know is that when I hear a 50-year loan, it makes me like cry inside. I'm like, no, why would anyone ever do that? And so my question to you is, what are your thoughts on that? And then who would be interested? Who would that benefit for a 50-year mortgage loan specific to the veteran community?
So it's kind of a loaded question because recently I did a video on it and I was like, nah, it's a completely bad idea. But the more I think about it now, so if you're 30 years old and you get a 50-year mortgage, you're going to be like 80 years old before you pay off that mortgage. Okay, that's number one. But the reality is that most people move or refinance between the 5 and 7 year mark. Did my video go out?
Yes.
It did. All right, I'll turn it on after I finish my comment. So essentially, like you have the ability to get a lower payment by doing a 50-year, even though you know that you're not going to really leverage the full 50 years. So it could be a temporary solution. I'll work on fixing my camera.
What are your thoughts on the 50-year mortgage, Jason?
So here's my thoughts. The average time that a person owns a home is 7 years. So there's that. We like this idea that you buy a house, you stay there and you never leave, and you retire there and you pay it off and then you stay there till you die. But that's not the reality.
That's how life was when you were born, but not anymore. Right?
Yeah, sure. So I think that there is something to be said about that. You also have to understand that there are and there have been interest-only loans where people just pay the interest. Their loan balance never goes down, but they're making interest-only payments as an option. There's also reverse amortization loans. There's all kinds of different products out there, and really you got to look at it as a tool. So I think that I'm all for more options, personally. More options, the better, but you have to be educated and be smart with what you do. And I get it. I mean, you can say, well, let's put these guardrails up and make it this big and only everybody can get 10-year loans and that's it. But that's a very, condensed situation, right? So opening it up and letting people make their informed decisions, I think is probably the appropriate way. I think these two things are kind of true, or at least that's what I feel like. I feel like the housing market has done this and income has done this. So they're both trending up, but there's a gap. And over the last 30 years, that gap has gotten bigger. So how do you make the house prices go down? Well, that's a tough nut to crack. Okay. And it's a slippery slope because you don't want to crash the market either. So opening up a 50-year mortgage kind of can open up some home ownership opportunities for somebody. Let's say that now a 25-year-old buys the house. Sure, they got a 50-year loan. Let's use the magical world of it's going to stay there, which isn't most likely not going to happen. But fine, they're 75 when it's done, right? So I think that when it comes to supply and demand, you're looking at the amount of homes in a geographic area. If there's less homes on the market or available than potential buyers, you're going to have a push on values, pushing them up because people are fighting for these homes. Now, at the local if you look at the local area, like your city, your county, even your state, there's going to be different laws and different things in place that only allow so many new homes to be built, so much development to happen, and it's can stagnate the market, especially if you have a transient population that's moving here or there. If you have a cap on how many houses can be built, but you got a bunch of people moving there, well, now the house prices are going up, right? So it's not as easy, I think, as people would like it to be. So I think a 50-year is just an option. And personally, I'd rather see a 50-year than a fixed adjustable, personally.
Yeah. I'll add to that too, is that I just thought of it when you're talking about that, Jason. You know, every time we say that, if you're waiting for rates to drop and rates drop, what happens to the housing market? Values go up. And I think that actually the same thing is going to happen here. As soon as they make things more affordable, they become more competitive. And then being more competitive drives that price up. So I think from a long-term perspective, you know, you can almost have what's called like a pick-a-pay loan. And I don't know if you guys remember that. It used to be like you could make a 1%, 15-year, 30-year mortgage. But here, right, and someone brought this up in an event I did not long ago, is that if you take out a 50-year, I wouldn't go into it thinking this is my monthly payments 50 years. You should be trying to hit a 30-year mortgage payment, or even at some months, let's say maybe a variable income, try to hit the 15-year mark, so that way you're making extra principal payments, bringing that mortgage down faster. Because I'm with Clay, like, you know, you want to pay things off as fast as possible, but it's not for everybody. Don't stretch your budget, because like if you're stretching your budget to go to a 50-year, you might start running into some problems at some point. Okay, because remember, housing costs go up over time. You still got to maintain a property. You have taxes, and sometimes you could go from being exempt from taxes to paying taxes. So all things to consider in this journey.
What it makes me think of, this is gonna sound mean. My little sister's an idiot. Okay, she really is just an idiot all around, especially financially. Financially, it's like double idiot space. And I can see her right now being like, "Oh yes, a 50-year mortgage. You know, it knocks a few $100s off my payment. We're doing that, and you know what? I'm gonna pay extra each month," and she's gonna believe it. And there are millions of people that are gonna believe that they're gonna put extra principal payments. And you know what happens when the first of the month rolls around? They don't do it, and then they're like, "Oh, I'll do it next month." And all of a sudden, you're 6 years into this home. You haven't put a single extra payment, and it's just it's a human behavior thing. And I can really see veterans not managing their debt well, and then all of a sudden you're going to get those spam ads of, you know, veteran debt relief or whatever, which is all baloney. No one's just going to wave a magic wand and make your debt go away unless you die. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I can't stand this thing. I think it's stupid.
So in 2005, the average years owned home ownership for that specific home was 6.5 years.
Yep.
Now it's starting to be longer. Why? Not because people are smarter. It's because they can't afford to leave their 2.5% interest rate.
Right.
So they're stuck with their house. Right. So now it's about 11.8, 11.9 years. Right. Because they bought and they got this low interest rate, or they refinanced into this lower interest rate. Now they're stuck. So now what's going to happen is the people that are buying today, right, or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right, we're going to start to creep up on that 6-year, 7-year thing again. Because if interest rates start to drop down, they're going to go, well, I don't like my house. I'm going to go buy another house at a lower interest rate and be the same payment but better house, maybe, right? So we're going to see those numbers of home ownership dropping back down. And so what I want to focus on here is the idea that it's sub 10 years. And really that first 5 years, you know how much you pay toward the actual principal is, even if you have a 30-year fixed, it's very little, because it's not a normal interest rate like a car loan interest rate. It's not simple interest. It is amortized. And because it's amortized, The beginning of your payments are all interest, and then as you go down toward the end of your loan, then you're paying hardly any interest. And the other one goes this way, which is little principal goes up to a lot of principal over that 30-year term. Nobody likes to look at those numbers because it just makes you want to throw up. But the reality is that first several years, you're not paying down much. So if it's your first home, you're single, or you're married with no kids and you're buying a 2-bedroom, well, who cares if it's a 50-year? Because you're especially dependent on where you're buying, right? If you buy in an area that has a higher value increase than in the middle of Montana somewhere, you're buying in some area that has, a historical higher value equity buildup. You're not trying to pay down your house to get equity. You just need to hold on to your house to get equity.
In theory. Yeah.
In theory. I mean, it's all this, right? I mean, some people you get lucky, and some people don't. Some people had to suffer from the 07-08 fiasco. But needless to say, it's just, I don't know. If people are owning their house sub 10 years and it's their first home, I mean, and then on the flip side, what do we have, David? We have folks out there that are hustling reverse amortization loans, right? So you have people that are doing the basically where they get a payment every month out of their mortgage instead of making a payment, right? So there's all kinds of different things. I just think that I'm a fan of more options, but education and on making the right move for yourself and your family. All right, sorry.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too, is that all of this is being done to help stimulate the economy and get affordability for folks. But at the end of the day, if we do nothing, the market will just correct itself and home prices will drop. And I think that's right now, they don't want that to happen, right? So but we're kind of going back to a normal market where there is a lot of inventory and people, and there may be not as many buyers. So in theory, right, it can go the opposite. The market could correct itself without innovative, let's say, products, because otherwise we're going to be going back to stated income, stated asset loans. And then it's going to be a total nightmare for folks. Because I think right now people are scared to lose value. And you see a lot of people delisting homes because they're like, well, I'm not getting this 200,000.
Yeah.
I should make 200,000 on this. I bought it last year. That doesn't make any sense, right? And so you have markets where, like, I feel like not a popular answer or idea, but at the same time, maybe the market just needs to correct itself and not fix like in real time, because that's what I feel like is happening with a lot of things right now in the businesses. Oh, this happened last week. We have to correct it for the following week. Well, that's not how it works.
Right. Clay, I have another act for you, another bill, and I'm not sure if you saw this one or not. I'm going to read it, the name of it, and we'll see if your eyes gloss over or not.
Okay.
All right. It's the Clear Legal Assessment and Review of Illness from Toxic Exposure Yield, the Clarity Act.
Is
so
that
basically
the secrecy of VA studies thing?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. I don't know how I remember that.
That's pretty good. Yep. So basically transparency, right? So giving us the veterans the information that the VA has on all of these different illnesses that could be a potential to toxic exposure and the likelihood of being rated for those things, all that stuff. So I'm not asking you to dive into all the specifics, but just on its face, what do you think this could potentially do for basically, I guess, Terra, right? This would be the Terra folks out there, which quite frankly could be a lot of people.
Yeah. There's more Terra people out there than there are PACT Act presumptive people out there. Because Terra includes, if you are a veteran alive right now, more likely than not, you've been exposed to something. The Navy had a huge asbestos problem, still has an asbestos problem. Not to mention things that are stored on bases that were like Agent Orange being stored on bases, right? That's not presumptive, but you're still being exposed. And so Terra goes out to like Bosnia, Kosovo in the 90s. That's another Terra place there. But I think this specifically, if I remember, a big part of it is for the Area 51 veterans and the atomic veterans when it comes to VA research into potential exposures that could lead to presumptive conditions. Now, the reason you'll see Mark Takano, that's why I know about it, is because of Rep Mark Takano, who, by the way, is anti this administration, just heads up. The reason that matters is because his media is really amplifying Area 51 right now specifically. And then we also see the Trump administration, like it or not, completely irrelevant. They actually took away a condition on the presumptive for the PACT Act. It was male breast cancer, very, very small impact. But it is the first time the VA has said, you know what? This used to be a presumptive and now it's not. And so you look at, there's definitely some politics happening behind the scenes, but the fact of the matter is they're not being transparent. Okay. And I would argue no one's being transparent right now, but I don't know if the Area 51 and the Clarity Act are the same thing. I think it is. But yeah, that's kind of the under the hood with that.
Yeah. And so again, like with anything, if it's something that you think, which I mean, there's nothing negative about this, right? There's no way anybody should go, yep, no, I'm not for that. And this is, and look into it. The clear legal assessment and review of illnesses from toxic exposure yields the Clarity Act. Again, if we don't talk about it and we don't reach out to our congressional members, we don't care. Reaching out to your congressional member, even if you know that they support it, you should still reach out and say something. Why? Because it lets them know that you're paying attention. And that is worth its weight in gold. And if you get your family members on your left and right to make phone calls too, or to send emails as well, it just helps to amplify that message. Any other, I know we're running short on time now. Are there any other... Yeah, good.
I got one. I think it happened yesterday, and we had a comment on it. It either happened yesterday or this morning, where President Trump signed GI Bill benefits for veterans discharged for refusing the COVID vaccine. And so, real quick, if they served a year or 2 years, I think the full GI Bill benefits is 3 years. Don't quote me on that. That's from memory. But those veterans now have their full GI Bill, which, hey, if we want veterans to get back to work, that's a slight dig there. If you know, you know. Education benefits are going to be huge there. I'm curious as to what their VA or access to VA compensation is. That's not something I've looked into. I assume it's a small amount of veterans. But, yeah, I think it's a big win for all.
That's huge. And I think that as far as them with VA benefits are concerned, if they didn't get a dishonorable discharge, right, then they're highly likely, if they have specifically direct connected conditions, they're most likely going to. And even if they had to put in, there's two different ways to get a character of discharge kind of update if you needed one. There's the real way, which is through the DOD and your branch and all that, and that's a pain in the butt. Then there's the upgrade for VA purposes only to get into some different benefits that maybe you didn't qualify for. So there's also that route. Highly suggest work with an accredited representative to help you with that if that's something you need.
Here's a question for David specifically. Says the state of Maryland has tax exempt for P&Ters if granted 100% in November. I'm assuming this month of 2025. Will I be exempt for the full year? Before you answer that, I will say this. If you're granted now, I would look at the effective date and use that. So not November of right now. Use the effective date. And then I would look at Maryland and see if they honor the effective date. I can tell you Virginia, Fairfax County goes back 2 years, I think. That's off of memory. And not every state does, right?
Some go back 5.
You might want to. You said what? Maryland goes back 5?
No, not Maryland, but I know like surprisingly in like Cook County, Illinois, they go back 5 years. Do you do what's So when your effective date of your disability rating should be the date that you filed your intent to file. In theory, that's what it's supposed to be, right? So if you owned the home prior to that, right, and you've been paying taxes. I just talked to someone today that received 2 years worth of refunds because they never filed it. When they did a certificate of error for the last 2 years and they got it. The easiest thing to do is to reach out to the county assessor's office to be able for them to tell you exactly where it is, and they'll tell you where you file it online. And there's sometimes windows that are open that you have to file it within, and some states don't do let you do a certificate of error if you didn't file it. So it's important to file it when you get it.
I'll tell you this, man. My Virginia property tax on my house was a lot. And I got about, I want to say 2.5 years of back pay on that. When that check hit, dude, oh my gosh, we won the lottery. Okay. But everyone thinks about back pay from the VA, which is awesome. But don't forget, there could be other back pay moments like property taxes in your escrow are going to be huge.
Which actually a good point. As we're coming to the end of this year, make sure that you're checking your property tax bills, please, because they may, like you, if you missed your, I've had plenty of people see now Clay's got the same problem with the battery. It's just a vicious circle in this channel.
Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. Just saying.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it. So the thing with that is that make sure you're checking your tax bill, your assessment as well, because that could sneak up on you out of nowhere like it did for a lot of folks. And one thing that I actually want to touch on, guys, is you remember we talked about the HR 1815 that was signed into law a couple months ago. It's the VA Home Loan Program Reform Act. It's the VASP replacement. We're in November, and still there's no replace. Like they have, what are they doing with it? Like it's supposed to come out next
the
month.
government's been shut down for almost 2 months.
Give me excuses. That's nothing but excuses. They've already had plenty of time to come up with this. Like it blows my mind. I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, why hasn't this bill has passed and signed, but nothing has happened.
Right. Yeah, that's frustrating. So again, reach out to your congressional members and tell them so they can put some heat onto the VA, right? So it's in the VA's hands. Really. But you have nobody else to really reach out to. And I'll tell you, for those that have never reached out to your congressional member's office, it's not scary. It's really not. There's a constituency, sometimes they'll have 1 or 2 or 3 different locations within your specific district. And there's just little offices. You walk in, there's somebody there behind the desk, a staffer, hey, how are you? What can we help you with? They have somebody that works for them in your district that specifically deals with VA and military issues. You talk to that person about whatever you need to talk about, and they'll run it up the flagpole for you. They are customer service oriented, if you will, because, they want to be reelected. So that is what they are there for. Next one here, Clay, is there's a bipartisan bill out there to expand access to the Fisher House houses. They just built the 100th one of them. For those that don't know what the Fisher House is, they're located on VA medical facilities, and essentially it's kind of like I don't know. They're big houses with a bunch of little living quarters with shared space. And if you are a veteran who needs to have major stuff done, and you're bringing your caregiver and family and all that stuff with you, and you got to go inpatient, they provide that housing, lodging for them, for your family members and care support team, whatever it is, for free. It's fantastic organization. They run on donations. Again, Fisher House, if that's something that you want to look into. They are looking to expand access to DOD members who are utilizing VA facilities for internal, for inpatient type major. This isn't, I'm going in because I'm getting my blood pressure checked and leaving. This is major things that nobody wants to deal with, and it's hard enough to have to deal with it and to try to look for lodging next to some of these places. It's difficult, and you want your family members or caregivers closer to the facility. This is a great program. So again, they're looking to open it up to certain military and also the veterans' families, of course.
You kind of cut out there. I'm just gonna take over now.
Yeah, I'm back.
Lost a few last seconds. I'll tell you this: I stayed in the Fisher House many a times for lots of big personal reasons with my family, and they're awesome. So Fisher Houses are also on DoD installations, and so, for instance, if you're on Camp Lejeune and you go to the Naval Hospital there, and you're there for some serious stuff, your family, relatives, whoever can stay inside the Fisher House. And yeah, it's like a community home. If you know what the Ronald McDonald House is for like the UNC Chapel Hill Hospital, the civilian hospitals, it's essentially that, except for on DoD installations. And then they have the same equivalent for the VA. And so it's nice to see expanding access to, because if you're in the Fisher House, just to be real with you, your life sucks, and it's just a very hard thing. And who wants to fork out money for a hotel for a month and a half? Because if you're in a Fisher House, you're there for a while, right?
Yeah.
And so who wants a $100,000 hotel bill for 3 months? It's like insane. So, but hey, you'll get some nice Hilton points if you stay at Hilton. So yeah, I mean, all in favor of that one. We have about 10 questions if y'all want to do a rapid fire, and then we can go ahead and end the stream if that's cool. So first off, can the VA lower your rating? The answer is yes. However, it's not, the VA is not out here lowering. The reason you ask that, I assume, is you're implying the VA is just out here doing whatever they want to lower ratings. That's not the case. You have your 10, 20-year rule. The 5-year rule is basically a bologna sandwich. And if you give the VA a reason to lower your rating, then they will. And that's the quickest way to answer that one. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, that's a good one. I mean, it's basically, go to your appointments. If you have an exam coming up, keep going to your appointments, keep doing your thing, keep documenting, and so forth.
Yeah. A better way to phrase the question is, does the VA conduct re-examinations when re-examinations are required? Right. Okay. Clarence says, what about Medal of Honor recipient Dakota Meyer? I don't know if you've seen that, Jason. You might want to do a video on that here soon. I'm definitely going to.
Yeah.
He has some, I skimmed what his article on the blog or the Bluff or whatever he calls it. It's not too favorable for veterans with disability. I think it aligns with what we've been seeing in the news lately. But hey, video idea, that's definitely on my list to do. Major Registrar Act is needed. Yes, we did mention this. Glad to circle back. One of the, and you explained it well, Jason, where the funding isn't present if that were to pass, and anything that requires funding right now has like the attention of everyone to say no. Long story short, another thing with the Major Registrar Act, the number one reason, I forgot what his name was, but someone denied it to go to a vote. His number one reason was that it would be considered double dipping, which is really a weird argument because we're talking about people with no legs, like literally. You did 30 years, you got blown up in Iraq, and you have no legs, and you're medically retired. That's who the Major Registrar Act would support. And you're looking at an offset of about $1,200 to $1,300-ish, right? Because they still get their retirement. And you look at not double dipping, yet a 20-year retiree at 50% or higher has CRDP, which is the quote double dipping. Anyway, so those are my thoughts on that. I don't think it would have passed even if it went to a vote, but the argument for double dipping to not give it to a vote is just a slap in the face, right? At least
Agreed.
that's what I would argue. Yeah. I'm 100% PNT. How hard is it to get a home loan?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. It depends. If on your financial picture, if you good credit, no debt, super easy. But I wouldn't disqualify yourself. Schedule a call with me. You can go to vahousingeducation.com. You can go to my YouTube channel, VA Housing Education. Schedule a call with me, and I'll go through it with you because there's a lot of different options. I mean, some veterans can qualify up to, I think the highest purchase price we qualified somebody for just on VA disability was $1.3 million to buy a multifamily home, but they had the reserves. So it's possible. And by the way, they wouldn't have a mortgage payment.
Yeah, there's so many factors into
There's so many factors. Yeah.
getting a home loan, and the biggest one I would say is what area do you live in, right? Because if
Yep.
you're 100% PNT where I'm from, which is middle of nowhere, Kentucky, oh, you're good. You're good. If
You're living
you are
large.
100% PNT and where I live now, which is 8 minutes south of DC, you're not good. In fact, you're poor. So it just depends, Another one. Good day to all. David, would you know the projected VA loan limit for 26? I know currently it's 806,500. I think I heard it may go up.
Good question. So it's projected to go up to 819,000. Now, not to confuse people. So what this is referring to, so if you don't have an outstanding VA loan, you could buy a $5 million place, no money down all day long, providing you qualify and eligible. Okay, there's all those things. But if you can afford it, you can buy it without any money down. This only applies if you have a VA loan and you're keeping that VA loan. So you want to have multiple VA loans because you can have multiple VA loans. You can take your current property, turn it into an investment, and buy another one. This affects your total entitlement, but that's like a whole video, and I have a video on that.
Yeah. Another reason why I think veterans should pay off their homes specifically.
Yeah.
Because you're getting access to more of your VA home loan if you want to own too, right? And I know if you don't spend that money on debt, I know it's going to a bag of chips or whatever, whatever our nasty bodies want to consume. So just spend your money wisely. Although I do like me a good bag of chips. I'm 80% unemployable. We have 3 questions left. Gulf War vet. I've been extremely sick for 35 years. That sucks. Hate to hear it, dude. I'm afraid they will, because of this admin, somehow take it away from me. Okay. I've done multiple videos on this. I think Jason has too. The IU talk was from some CBO projections, like I think 7 years ago. Somehow that's made its way back up because we see that same administration, and then you have Russell Vogt on the OMB. So I get where the sentiment's coming from, but I want to be very clear. Okay, IU is not going away. And even, let's just say, even if it does, okay, it would be for everyone else, right? Meaning all the future veterans. So same thing for sleep apnea. If sleep apnea were to change from 50 to 0, which by the way is going to happen, it's going to be for everyone else, right? So your sons, your children, your grandchildren, they're not going to be able to claim sleep apnea and get 50%, right? And so anytime something happens where there's a financial change, Congress knows, the VA knows that people rely on those benefits for 35 years in this case. You're going to be safe, dude. So I hope that gives you some peace. I know it's not, because we all have crazy anxiety. I hope you can take the word of a YouTuber. Okay. Hurricane 1031 says, also a member, thank you very much, says, what are the requirements for IRRL refinance currently 6 months into my current VA mortgage?
So one of the biggest benefits of using your VA loan the first time around, one, saving a ton of money by not refinancing it out of a conventional or FHA loan, is being able to utilize the interest rate reduction refinance loan. The requirements are you have to be on time with your payments. You have to make 6 mortgage payments, and you have to wait 210 days to close. So after the 6-month payment's been made, you process the loan over the next 30 days and you can close. You have to save at least 0.5% on the interest rate, and you have to recoup your closing costs within 36 months. That's normally going to be lender and title fees. That's not going to include transfer taxes or escrow. So you really have to be careful with that because you may have a expensive area that you're in.
I have
And
a
then
question on
once
that. Let's say you
yeah.
close, I'm just going to use January 1st for simplicity. Let's say you close January 1st, but your first payment isn't until March 1st for whatever reason, which by the way is I love when that happens. It's like you're living as like a king, right? Is it 6 months from March 1st of your first payment,
Correct.
or is it 6 months from the close?
No, you have to make full 6 payments. Some people get clever and they'll be like, I'll just make 2 payments in 1 month. You can't do that. You got to wait the full amount. And then if you're interested in that, schedule a call with me, check out my YouTube channel, and then I can help you through that process. But that's a good question.
But hey, I am a fan of paying that mortgage down faster. So go ahead and
Yes.
make that second payment.
But yeah.
What? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, it kind of leads to that second question. Just someone asking, like, sometimes I look at these guys and I'm just not the biggest fan of them because I'm like, hey, we're not saving much. Someone called me today and they're like, I'm saving $50 finance house. I said, no, don't do it. Let's push you into stuff. Like, that's not what we're just trying to look at this stuff logically. If you're saving $56 a month, why are you doing this? And the cost was like $9,000. You can't even do it. So, but like, that's what they proposed to this guy. And I looked at the documents. I was blown away. So there's no changes for IRRLs coming up next year. The program is already great. I think some people are really holding off with interest rates. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but when the Fed dropped the rates the other week or a couple weeks ago, guess what? Mortgage rates went up because you're going to see that. When you're going to see the Fed funds rate dropping, that means people pulling money out of bonds and putting them into stock markets. In order to make investors bonds attractive to investors, they have to raise rates. Now, there's a proposal, and I think it's crazy, but they may go back to doing quantitative easing. That will be COVID era shenanigans where all of a sudden, out of nowhere, rates will drop 100 basis points overnight and stay that way. That's because
nobody knows what basis points are, David.
Yeah, I just.
so I'm sorry. Sometimes I get into that zone, but yeah. So 50 basis points is 0.5%. 100 basis points, it's 1% on the rate itself. But the irony is that these bonds are being created. You're borrowing money with these bonds, and then the government's coming in and buying the bonds. So like they're buying their own money back. So it's kind of interesting. But if they do that, that will be a game changer. And hopefully it's something that's temporary. Obviously, like all these ideas, it could backfire significantly because, again, home values may go up again. And then we're going to be sitting at even higher values, less affordability. So, but where people will take advantage of it, just like during COVID, the people will reap the rewards of buying a home and then refinancing it like almost everybody does.
This is the last question, and we'll go ahead and end the stream here. So Rocky Mountain Technical, thank you for the donation. Don't know which channel it's on, but if it helps one, it helps all. So thank you very much. Says, can MRI reports that show spine issues be used as a diagnosis, or do I need a doctor to diagnose me? I need that to get a Nexus letter. If you have an MRI that shows something clear, that is a clear diagnosis, and that is the evidence that you actually want to submit to whoever's doing your Nexus letter. I would argue without it, you probably have a poor Nexus letter. All right. And so if the evidence and an MRI is, let me do a visual here. MRI evidentiary probative weight, let's say that's high, is much higher than you saying my back hurts, right? And so that is exactly what you want. And a ton of veterans can't get an MRI because MRIs are expensive. And a lot of primary referred cares within the VA will kind of kick that can down the road to say, hey, let's just put you on physical therapy without doing an MRI, right? And you see that all the time. And so I'm just happy you have an MRI to begin with. But yeah, do you want to add anything for that, Jason, and then go ahead and close us out?
Yeah. So the MRI, like you said, it's huge. It's anytime you could put a picture to something and say, this is the issue right here, it's not disputable at all. So it makes it very clear and easy, unless it's blurry, then it's not clear, but whatever. So that is awesome with the MRI. Now, the fact that you have somebody that's going to be putting together the Nexus letter, that means that there's a doctor, because Nexus letters need to be completed by a medical professional, right? Doctor. That doctor is going to put a name to what's in the MRI. So they should anyway, say that this is what I see. So that's going to become essentially the diagnosis is now written into that Nexus letter. Now, the only other thing that I would maybe consider, and I don't know what this is for, but there's two things to think about. When you're filing a claim, there's two goals. Those two main goals are, one, getting service connected, i.e. Nexus letter creates the nexus for service connection. Okay. So that's that piece. The other piece is getting the correct rating. So in some cases, it's just, it is what it is. And the evidence that you provide is just going to spell it out, and you're going to be rated at whatever you're rated at as it relates to the rating schedule. But it's always a good idea to read and understand the rating schedule as it pertains to your specific condition, and understand if there's a little leniency there. I mean, there's weird little things that can really tweak where you fall on that rating schedule. For example, not all, but in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases, being prescribed a medication could potentially move you to a different rating versus not being prescribed anything. So, there's little weird nuances for all of this stuff, but definitely on the right track. MRI, super solid. The fact you have a medical provider that's going to be doing the Nexus, they're going to call it something and put it in there for rating purposes. I would just think about in the background what that condition is, what it looks like on the rating schedule, and make sure that I get that type of information in there as well. With that, thank you for watching. If you're not subscribe to all the channels, we really appreciate you doing that. Hitting the thumbs up really does help. Watching the videos helps. All of this stuff really helps to spread the word, which is really our three goals, is to educate and inform the rest of us. We're all veterans. We've all chewed some of the same dirt. And now that Clay has figured out that David was infantry, they now are it's like brothers all of a sudden.
We're basically
even more so. Totally. I mean, and the hairlines are almost getting close.
Hey,
so,
I would like to say I am on hair growth treatment as of 2 days ago.
That's a separate
is
channel.
it working? When do you find
I don't
out?
know. Maybe in 6 months, I'm gonna do a stream, and you're just gonna see this like.
Yeah, you come on competing. Yeah. Well, that's pretty fantastic. If it works, you're gonna have to let people know what it is, because I'm sure there's ones that don't. So, I mean, maybe we sprinkle a little on David, see what happens. Give him a mohawk or something. All right. So with that,
from the 90s,
with that, thank you guys for watching. We appreciate you very much. Even in the evening here, we appreciate all of your time so very much. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.